Hello, welcome to East Longmeadow Public Library Summer Art Class. I'm Jenny Voigt. I will guide you through painting mason jars. In your art kit that you should have picked up from the library, you will find 2 mason jars. We'll be painting 2 of them today. You should have some sponges, circular sponges for painting, yellow, orange, green paint, as well as some pink and white. You will also find a pencil. You will also find a Q-tip or 2. And what we're going to do today is paint lemons, limes, and oranges on one mason jar. And we'll paint some fun dots on another mason jar. We picked fun, summery colors. I hope you enjoy the project. To begin our project, you'll want to take the lids off of the mason jars and set them aside. We will paint those in a little while. And you will want to pour your paints out on a paper plate. So I poured out the yellow and the orange and the green. And we're going to start with the biggest sponge. And I'm actually going to start with the yellow. So I dipped my sponge into the paint. I got a little extra paint. And I'm going to choose the first jar. This is the one we'll designate as the fruit jar. And you can press your sponge to make a simple circle. So that's using the largest one. Now we're going to go to the medium one and dip. And I'm going to make 2 with this size. And I'm going to turn my jar so they're spread out. So I've got 1 big lemon and 2 smaller size lemons. And I'm going to hold off on using the smallest sponge. This is going to be for the other mason jar. Now I'm going to take my sponges and wash them. So I just have a container of water. You want to get the paint off and you want to squeeze as much of the water out of the sponge as possible. Squeeze the water, and then I have a dish towel. So I'm using my dish towel. You can use paper towel to get the water out. So now I have a nice clean brush. We're going to move on to the green. I'm using the largest brush. Get my extra paint off. And maybe on the other side of the jar, I'll put the big lime, the big green circle. You can always stamp into the paint if you need to add more. So there's my green circle. And I'm going to take the medium size brush. I'm going to paint two medium size circles that are going to be our limes. I'm turning my jar so the colors are spread out. Got my yellows and my greens. Now I'm going to wash my sponges again. Get the green out. Squeeze as much water out of the sponges as possible. Use a towel to dry them. And now we're going to move on to our orange. So I'm going to find a nice spot for the big orange on my jar. Looks like there's room here. Biggest one. Then I'm going to use the medium size brush or for some smaller oranges. Actually, these are slices. Maybe an orange over here. Okay, now I've got lots of green, orange, and yellow dots. I actually have 2 of each, a larger size and the smaller size, or 3 of each, I should say. If you want to pick your favorite color, you can add additional dots if you want to fill in your spaces. I'm going to add another orange one down here. And I think my jar is pretty full. I could add another, perhaps a green or a yellow. So if you want to add more, you'll have to wash your brush, or your sponge, I should say. Squeeze out your water. I'm going to add another green, smaller or medium-sized sponge. Okay, that is part 1. We're going to set this aside and let it dry. Now we're going to paint the lids to our jars. So I'm going to go ahead and use my green for the ring of the jar. We're just going to use our sponge brushes and paint all around. This lid's going to be for the jar that has the lemons and oranges and limes on it. So I'm going to use the green and the orange. There's one lid, and now the ring, I'm going to paint orange. Just going to keep it on this paper plate. Sponge all around. Oops. I'm going to set this aside to dry. And now the other lid that goes to my second mason jar, we're going to be adding white and pink. So I'm going to go ahead and paint my lid white and pink. I'm rinsing my brush, getting all the green paint out. I'm drying it on my old dish towel. I'm going to use my pink for the rim. Things will get a little bit of paint on them. Check all your sides. Make sure you have enough paint on there. And I'm going to set this aside to dry. I'm going to wash my brush, paint out. I'm going to use the white for the circle part of the lid. There. So both my lids are painted, and now I'm going to move on to my second mason jar. So we're just going to do dots on this jar, and we're just going to use up the paint that we have. You can choose your sizes. We'll use all 3 sizes of the sponge brushes, and whatever paints you have the most of, you can use all of them up. I'm going to start with this orange since I already have it on this brush. I'm only going to use this larger one a few times. So nice big orange one. I'm going to wash my larger brush. Rinse and dry. Move on to the yellow. Nice large yellow circle. And I'm going to rinse my brush again. I think I would like a nice big pink one. Put my clean brush into the pink. Pink. Now I'm going to move on to the smaller size sponges, and since I already have white on here, I'm going to go for a white dot. In fact, I'm going to put a few. Now I'll wash the white off of this one. And I'm going to go for the green. I don't have as much green paint left, so I may only get 1 dot of green out of there. Not a lot of green. If you have any paint left in your containers, you can always put your sponge into those. I'm going to have to pour a little bit more just to finish this dot. Now I'm going to use my small sponge that we haven't used yet and try to get all the colors in if possible. So 1 more green. And I'll wash that little brush off. Dry it with my dish towel. Going to add some more orange, whatever orange I have left. Sometimes you have to turn the brush around a little bit to get the paint from the sides. For my orange, I'm going to wash my small brush. See what yellow I have left. Plenty of yellow. So I'll add a few yellow dots. Let's see. Just have to turn your jar to see where you want to place your colors. I'm going to wash my small brush. And add some more pink. Not many spaces left. Maybe up here on the edge. Add pink. And now you'll want to set this jar aside to dry as well. So we've got both our jars painted, we've got both our lids painted, and we're just going to let them dry for maybe about an hour or two. And then we're going to add the lines to make these dots look like orange and lemon and lime slices. Hopefully you have let your jars dry and all your colored dots you can touch and none of the paint will come off. And now we're going to add the little segments to make it look like a slice of fruit. I actually sliced an orange, so we want to paint a white circle and then a white dot in the middle and then some little white lines for the segments of the fruit. So I've included in your kit just a pencil, a sharp pencil, and we're going to use your white paint. And what we're going to do, and also your Q-tip. You should have one Q-tip or a couple Q-tips. So we'll take and dot the center with your Q-tip. And we're going to use the pencil to draw the lines, the segments. So you have to dip frequently. Oops. So it should look like something like a bicycle spoke. Then you're going to use your pencil and white paint and connect your lines on the outside so you get the white part that's on the edge. It's almost like you're drawing with a pencil. A lot of dipping into the paint. So something like that. I'm going to do another one. So I'm going to dot the center with the Q-tip, and I'm going to draw the segment lines. something like that. And now we're going to paint circle, the outer circle. You do want to leave a little border of the color. Something like that. I'm going to hit stop on my video recording so you can take time to paint in your lines on your slices. Okay, I just finished painting all my white lines to make my fruit look something like this. And now, just for fun, I'm going to take the lid that I painted for this jar and I'm going to paint a slice on the lid. If you would like to do that, you can, or you could leave it plain. But I happen to paint my lid orange, so, but any color would work. So I've got my dot. Now I'm using my pencil. I'm going to draw my lines. It takes a little time to make these. Paint dipping. Now I'm going to add the rounded part. There, my orange slice on the lid. So I'm going to set this jar aside and I'm going back to my all polka dot jar and I'm going to just add a few little fun additional dots. I have mostly white and pink, so I'm going to add, just for fun, I'm going to add some additional little dots on top. I'm going to do mostly pink on the colored ones, and then I'm going to add white to the pink ones. Now I'm going to also add some pink dots on the actual glass. Some of the empty space. Now I'm going to use some white. So I'll add white to the pink dots. I'm going to add white to the glass. Lots of dots. Something like this. And if you want to create a little flower, with the dots, you could, just by adding dots around the center dot. I left some space. I think I'll do that on the light ones. So I'm actually adding, there's a center dot, and now I'm adding 5 little dots on the outside to create a flower. This one has the pink in the center. Two, three, four, five, something like that. And I'm going to take my lid, which happens to be white. I'm going to make a little pink flower in the center with dots. So I put a center dot and 5 little dots around it that are not touching. Look at the top of this jar. So you'll have to let your additional dots dry and your lids dry. Hope you enjoyed painting your mason jars with me today. My jars are completely dry. I'm also recommending that you let them dry for another 21 days before you wash them. Then the paint will be set. There's another technique called heat setting, which I don't think it's necessary for these jars. So just don't wash them for at least 21 days, but you certainly can use them. I found some colored rocks at the dollar store, little tiny rocks. I put my rocks inside my jar, and I'm going to add a candle, a battery operated candle, and it makes a beautiful candle holder at night. I'm also using this jar. I added some rocks from the beach. I'm going to add a battery operated candle to this jar so it has its pair. Another idea for your jars, you can simply use them as a vase for some pretty flowers, or you can store other items in your jars. Just simply use them as decoration. Hope you have a great rest of your summer. I'll see you next time.